Good evening, everybody. Welcome to FMA Discussion. This is episode 221, and tonight we have PG Tye Botting, and he's come highly recommended. I had the opportunity to meet him in person at the Modern Arnis camp held by Brian Zelensky, and I thought he was very, very nice and approachable. He was very welcoming, easy to talk to. So I mentioned, so right there, that keyed me into it. I definitely have to get him on. And it happened sooner than later. We had an opening, and I was able to squeeze him in. It was very short notice. He was in Texas. Say, hey, how about you coming on? And he obliged, and is where we are. So I appreciate you coming on with with the extremely short notice.
No worries. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you thinking of me in the short window. So it worked out well.
Yeah, it really did. It really did, and because I was just saying, oh man, if it can, I would have obviously got you on, sooner than later. But I figured, I figured it wouldn't hurt reaching out to you, and just seeing if what your schedule looked like, and if there was something that you could swing. And sure enough, here we are. And so, what's I was looking at your your website there and all that, which I really found interesting on many different levels. But you had obviously a very extensive Chinese background before you did, and in Malaysia. So let's hear it.
Yeah. So I was living in Malaysia because my father worked for Shell Oil, and we were transferred over there. So I was there during my high school years, and I always wanted to do kung fu. And I finally found a kung fu instructor that last year I was there. And was hooked ever since. He started me in Tiger Crane Kung Fu, so Hungar plus some other things, mainly Southern Shaolin. He even started a little bit of Wing Chun. He was a kind of a polyglot, a little bit like me, so maybe he started me down that path. That was DJ Yap, who's now Grandmaster Yap, and he's still in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
He's still over there. Wow.
Yeah.
So by your father's work, you got over there. I mean, in your teenage years. I mean, that alone had to be an experience. I mean, Malaysia. I mean, when you hear Europe, that's one thing, but Malaysia, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, well, actually, so it was funny. We moved there from London. I was in London 8th grade, and then 9th, 10th, 11th in Malaysia, and then moved back my senior year. And then had to find, of course, another kung fu instructor who I've been with ever since.
So when you say you moved back, Virginia?
Oh, Texas.
Oh, okay. So you grew up in Texas. Okay.
Yeah, Florida.
Oh.
I spent most of my time in Texas. I grew up I was born in Anacortes, Washington. Then we moved, I forget the order, but California, New York, Texas, California, Texas, and then London, Malaysia, Texas. And then,
wow. Oh my gosh, that couldn't have been easy growing up, man. You were bouncing all over the place. Okay.
I loved it. I think it was a great experience, especially living overseas, right? You get to find out there's great people everywhere. And there's different people everywhere. How's that? So it's usually they're all humans, right? That's the greatest part about it. That you feel it.
Yeah, just the cultural experience alone, just from you being there. I mean, that had to be incredible in itself. What you were exposed to. I mean,
absolutely. One thing I've noticed in high school, so high school was set up into separate groups, so people would do cliques, right? And groups like that. I found out that at least in Malaysia, people that were expats, we called ourselves, right, expatriates, more likely to overlap between the groups, a little bit more open. It was really funny because you're living outside the States, you're kind of forced to have your eyes opened, right, across the realities of how people are. So it was neat. I think for everybody. I think everybody benefits from it. It wasn't always easy for some people, but I enjoyed the heck out of it.
Yeah, you're right. I guess it's based on your individual preference, how you're brought up, and whether or not you can appreciate the exposure, what's being presented in front of you. You know what I mean? Everybody being different, of course, and all that. And we got some people jumping and watching. We got Jeremy from Canada, and we got Chris Hubbard. All right. And we got Audrey, who's David will watch tomorrow. Yes, folks, if you're watching, please tell us where you're watching from and smash that like button. So, okay, so you get exposed. You're really liking the Kung Fu. You move back. You find, I'm guessing, another teacher to pursue. Was it similar what you had over there, or different?
Yeah, actually very different. So remember I said I started in southern-based Chinese styles. My teacher I finally found in Houston, Yin Yang Wang, now Grandmaster Wang. He's in Humble, Texas, with an H. The H is silent. But yeah, he does northern shellend, northern praying mantis. So I showed him what I had learned, and he thought it was very interesting himself, but none of it was similar at all to what I've done with him since 83. I was with him ever since 83.
Okay. Wow.
Nathan, and then Chris is on.
Chris from Florida. We get long time no see, Nathan. So you continue that onward and upward. How did you get exposed to, or what was your first exposure to FMA? Who, what, and where?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I've seen it on shows, and this is sort of how I got sucked into appreciating Kung Fu. Just people who have that ability to do things, move, control their bodies, that kind of good stuff. But as far as really feeling it or trying some, my good friend and martial arts brother, Raymond Montoya in Bryan College Station, he had a Chinese Kempo program and still does. And as part of their program, it included some stick work. I believe it came from a little bit of Pikiti Tertia, but it was just some basic stick work, some Cinco Terros, some basic strikes, some Sinawales, things like that. So that got me started. And then shortly after that, I mean, we'll probably get into this a little bit. That's where I found my very first teacher, and then that led me to Remy. But yeah, it was Raymond Montoya and his school. That was around 91-ish. And then very shortly after that, we both started coming up at the same time under the next phase, which was Eric Alexander.
So, okay. So what'd you think of, like, I mean, regardless of what the system was in particular, you mentioned Cinco Terros. So, what was your, coming from the Chinese martial arts background, what were your initial thoughts of the experience and exposure to that?
Well, it's interesting because so in the Chinese arts, we have, a lot of forms, a lot of techniques, a lot of two-man forms. So two-man forms like a long drill set, sequence where they're, both halves of the form are being done together. And some of those were weapons, but not very often. So one, I wanted to have more contact with weapon versus weapon. And two, I like the challenge. So I don't know about you, but the very first time I tried the Sinawali, I remember getting all tied up and going, "What?"
Oh, that's funny. I was a mess.
It was ridiculous. And so stupid me, I go, "Wow, that's hard to do. I want to do more of that." So I like the challenge, right?
You know what really threw me off? I had some issues with Sinawali going way back, like I think my Ron Kauskowski, 96, something like that, was Hubert Rubit.
Okay.
I don't know what the hell was wrong with me, man. I just couldn't. I don't know. Now I look at it like I do it blindfolded, but back then it was just like, yeah.
Right, a little bit of that, because in Kung Fu we have some of these, pass hand things that go into, I can't show on the screen here, but pass over and strike.
Yeah.
I was always doing on a 2 count. So when Remy showed us, this is later on, the trapping hands drill, which is 1, 2, 3 normally, I kept on wanting to do 1, 2, and they kept, saying no. And it took forever to break that habit. And now I can do whatever counts that it.
Yeah, whether it's 2, 3 count, 4 count, right? Okay.
Right. But now you can do it blindfolded. But before, it's like anything you try and do. If you already could do it, then you wouldn't need to learn it, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I can't argue that for sure. So then, all right. So you were seeking more weapon on weapon. You kind of got your first, based on kind of Cinco Terros, modular. What and then you mentioned you and a friend kind of met somebody else. Is that
right? Well, I guess Raymond had already known him before, but basically Raymond's teacher knew Raymond liked to catch a lot, learn a lot of new things, and knew he was interested in FMA, and he said, "Hey, one of my other students, Eric Alexander, is doing Modern Arnis under Raymond Braces, and you really need to get with him if you want to get more of the FMA stuff." And so Raymond said, "Hey, I want to do that," and I raised my hand and said, "Hey, I want to do that with you, so let's do that." And Eric graciously, basically, dumped everything he had into us, and we, went from there. Very shortly after, we because Eric lived elsewhere, we got bumped up to Remy, and then we're direct under him.
So, and this is all still, as far as location is concerned, Texas?
Yeah, that was in Bryan College Station, Texas, the home of the Texas Aggies, which I are an Aggie twice, so I can say that.
Okay, and where's that by, as far as cities go? I mean,
sort of in between the triangle of let's see, from your point of view, Dallas, Houston, and Austin. just right in the middle of that triangle.
Oh, right in the middle of 3. Okay, all right. So that's kind of nice. You, as far as the major cities are concerned. Okay, all right. So then, all right. So you check out the school. I mean, were you at that point? Were you kind of the teacher under Remy? Is that kind of?
So yeah, Eric was already a multi-degree under Remy at the time, but we were just under Eric at the time, and finally he's there. Remy was coming to a camp in Dallas. I think that would have been 93-ish, maybe 94. I think 93. And said, "Hey, I'm going to be there. You guys need to meet Remy, my teacher, because I get that you're learning from me, but you really need to see the man." Mm-hmm. And so we went up to Dallas. We drove a couple 3 hours and had a blast. I still have very, very fond memories of that camp and all the ones after that. But yeah, that was the start. That's where I met Remy. That's where you got my first funny stories, all that good stuff.
Wow. Wow. And then, so were you already kind of, I mean, prior to meeting, GM Remy, were you really enjoying the material that you were seeing thus far, in Modern Arnis?
Absolutely. So with Eric starting us, basically he'd give us some stuff from seminars that we'd see, you could bring him in or we'd go see him. He'd give us stuff, we'd work on it solid. And so it's funny, he had his Chinese Kempo program, and I had my Kung Fu program, and we didn't blend it into those things. We actually taught it and worked it separately as a whole thing by itself. So I had a separate standalone Arnis program eventually once Remy told me to. But for myself, I've worked my Kung Fu, I taught my Kung Fu to my students, and on my own, I worked all the material with a lot of times with Raymond, sometimes at the police station, because that's where he worked. So I was his project, because at the time I had long hair, and the other cops would give him crap for who's this guy coming in at lunch, and we'd run and train multiple times a week and work the material so that we worked it solid. So by the time we met Remy, we were well set.
Yeah, okay, all right, and we got some more folks jumping in. We got Miguel Ruby from California, who's that? We got Alex, who will be coming on. We got Frank, who also will be coming on again, and we got Patrick from California as well. Yes, folks, if you're watching, please tell us where you're watching from. Smash that like button. We just got started. We're just jumping into Modern Arnis. So, what prior to meeting Remy, I know you were exposed initially to Cinco Terros. You're getting a feel of the stick work. What did you really like, even prior to meeting Remy? Like, what really resonated with you, as far as your training, and like what you were seeing in Modern Arnis up to that point prior to meeting GM Remy? Like, what are you really enjoying about it?
Oh no, that's good. So, like I said, I already mentioned that I already was interested in this in Sinawali just because I was interested in all the. I'm very mathematical, right? So, a lot of times I like to see where it can all explode into all the different ways it interlocks. That's obvious. That's kind of like a gimme, and as you know, that's sort of baby steps. But I really liked a few things. One of the things I really liked in Kung Fu, some of the same things, was the two-person drills and the two-person forms. So with all of everything kind of depending on stick and hand and two-person contact working together all the time, you got that constant feedback, that kind of constant touchstone of reality. Even if it's programmed, you're at least in contact with another person, and they're not gonna, they're gonna give you feedback, whether they're trying to be nice or not, right? You still learn from things, from touching hands, touching sticks, that kind of stuff. So I really like that contact, that feedback, because one of the things we look at in Kung Fu is sensitivity is a huge skill, and it takes serious training and serious focus to get something out of that. So that was another venue for that. But I liked some of the standard things like the sombrada drill, right? We call it a 6-count drill, and the variations of that. I like the disarms. That's something we didn't really work in Kung Fu that I had at the time. And the short stick was handy because it to me just gave me a feel for, hey, I can pick up anything, use that a little more readily, because anything can be about that size, plus or minus a factor or two or so, and you go from there.
Wow, yeah. I mean, obviously the structure and organization, which we're going to get into in a little bit, seemed to be really on point for those early years. Like, I know my first exposure in FMA, and no fault of any person there, I think that just was the norm. Like, you don't know what you're going to get, when you're going to get it, and it's not going to be really sequential. You know what I mean? And like that. And I think that was just kind of the way it was done then. But it seems like GM Remy, it seems like that wasn't the approach based on the previous Modern Arnis instructors I've had on here. It seems like it was very organized, structured, and all that, just from again, from the interviews and all that.
Right. Well, I guess I'd say, some people would argue that, Remy didn't really have a curriculum, but for me, he did. Two reasons for that. One, Eric is very organized, right? So he actually gave us a belted curriculum to work from that was his template for his students, and we were his students, so he gave that to us. So I had a belted curriculum from day one when I started Modern Arnis. Now, as far as Remy, when we went to camps or anywhere else where you might test, and yes, people tested sometimes out of camps, there was a testing kind of packet, right, that had everything that they're going to go through. There's your curriculum right there. So he knew exactly what he wanted to do, and he knew which things he wanted to emphasize and roll through as a rolling evolutionary emphasis. So I strongly believe that, yes, I would say, yes, he's very organized. Not always apparent to some people, but to me, I felt that too, yes.
Yeah, especially, again, considering the times. I mean, now today, everybody's really, you're seeing structure, you're seeing organizations kind of go up to speed.
Right.
If what you like or none of that. But back then, I thought, I think that was a rarity, considering, some of the other stuff that was going on, or systems, the way they were taught, in my experience, anyhow. So then, did you find, like, you're getting deeper, did you find a nice fusion between your Chinese martial arts background and what you're learning now? Did you see some crossover, some benefits to complement one another and all that?
Yes, and it's probably not going to be the same as anyone else. So I'm smiling big on that because, yes, it's huge with me. So I never, so while I worked the Modern Arnis with Eric, very very studiously, very seriously, all of that stuff on point, my main love was Kung Fu, right, at the same time. Once I met Remy, crossed hands with him, what I felt was, how do you describe it? You felt a grandmaster. One of the things I noticed is he had the grounding. He had some internal energy. He had that power, that effortless power, not just the, hey, I can beat up everybody, so I have effortless power, but he had structural, effortless, coordinated internal power of a kite that I recognized. And I was trying to figure out, wow, that's amazing. Because in my mind, it was really funny. I have an analogy. So I have a lot of those, so watch out. But so he, in Kung Fu, you do everything exactly right, and it gets to where it works great, right? And at least with Modern Arnis, we were doing everything to where it works better and better, and then you move more and more efficient, and it's more righter, if you will, right? It gets to the same place. So one of the things I felt from Remy is like he got there from a totally different path, and I can still feel some things I worked so hard to get on the other side that I wanted to get that whole. I want to see that whole now. I can explore that whole mountain, not just the one side, the one path, and I can get a feel for the depth of everything. So as soon as I felt him, I was like, oh, I guess this is my new other love. Okay, boom. So that's all it took. And I was
just touching hands with him. Huh. Yeah, that's great. And we got more. We got Nick Merchant. Nick, the vids look good. I got to check them out again. We got Brian, moderator. All right. And then we got Chad Billy in Miami. All right. So, so prior to, you go to the camp and all that. So now you see him at the camp, and now, I mean, I'm guessing you're really hooked. I mean, there's no turning back, right? I mean, Modern Arnis is it, right? Is that fair?
Basically, yeah. So one, it's, well, right, anything the family you make and grow is a big part of what you do. But he did the other two. He did another thing that made me get hooked. So one, what I touched and felt and could see from him and get that way. But the other thing he had said every camp was have fun. So if you're smart and you're around Raymond and I, don't encourage us too much because we're going to go and have way too much fun and be way too inappropriate, have fun, and just have a blast. But, when you're happy, making jokes, having fun with your friends, but serious, you know how you can do both, you learn really well. And so we were always on point because Remy said had fun, and so we're going to have fun and work hard. And in those two things, the feel and what I saw, and the attitude and the openness, learning in a good way, but still working hard, and slamming to the floor. One of my best tests, we'll probably get to that later, has some of that as well. But yeah, those two things. Yep.
Yeah, I just think if you have an atmosphere like that, I think you just, depending on your personality type, I just think you're going to be more apt to be comfortable and learn. Like you're not going to be constantly looking over your shoulder, or 10 people watching you. So if it's a really nice, relaxed atmosphere, I can tell you that. I mean, that benefits me. Like if it's uptight, and I know people, I don't do well there.
Sometimes we get too relaxed. We would actually get each other. And it started from the very first camp. So say, sometimes, a lot of times we move around and change partners, but a lot of times we were really trying to take good notes. We work together, right? So we keep it. And we took a ton of notes. We always took notes. But if we wanted to get each other, we'd say, "Oh, wait, I can't quite do that. Professor, can you show me?" And of course, he would take your partner and slam him or lock him up or whatever. And so I'm sitting there laughing behind him as he's giving me
that's funny.
To me, and good times.
We just had an incident this weekend. I don't know if Nathan's still watching, but Guru Greg Pichardo, was nice of him to come. I wasn't expecting that. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. And he was doing a sea-lot demo. I'm saying, like, right, man, if this guy's here, we got to give him time, man. Just let him, do your thing. And so one of the jokes was, hey, who wants to ask to see something again? As these. So it was like when you brought that up, it was like, geez, that happened just this weekend.
I don't think it ever goes away. But, you partly do that. It's kind of like, when you have a smell, "Hey, this smells really bad. Here, smell it."
Yeah. No, yeah, right. With the right people, it's all good and fun. Yeah, I mean, geez. So, all right, you go to camp. So, tell us about the camp. I've heard a lot of, stuff about these camps. You kind of touched on it now. A very relaxed setting, have fun, and all that. But like, what made these camps so paramount? Like, I mean, where where just many would come. I mean, obviously he got into a lot of traditional schools, so I mean, I think it's genius what his approach was in the States. I mean, more. And what's so funny is I actually got to learn more about Modern Arnis than ever through these interviews. I always knew about it, but I didn't really know the magnitude and impact that he had as far as like coming to the States and what he did getting to schools and all that. And I just think it's genius and all that. So these camps, I mean, what made them so legendary? I mean,
it's interesting. One of the things I noticed about him was that you're side by side and pairing up, because like you said, he'd have you switch partners with people you would never ever meet from different backgrounds, from different styles, right? Drastically different styles. So you may have this master level Taekwondo guy right next to you, and he's asking for your help. So everybody's dropped everything, partly because Remy had such a command of the room in a presence sense. I'm not saying in a militaristic sense, but in a presence sense, that everybody knew this was his shtick, this was his deal, and whatever you brought to the table, you were here to learn. And everybody came with that attitude, and so they all rotated, played, and shared, and helped each other. It might be an intermediate level student helping this master level student, this student at the time, right? So everybody, that's one of the things, you're always a student no matter what, if you're any good, I think. And so it brought and drove that home in a really, really fun way. So that's, in a nutshell, probably at least conceptually or strategically at a high level, one of the big things. That and have fun, do neat things. And the other thing he did is it made it accessible. So you had, there you go.
You know what? I knew he was going to come on here, man. So now I'm going to have to make sure my diction, my choice of words is going to be like.
I would say relax, right? We're going to do the same thing with the Remy camp. Just have fun and relax, and we'll figure that stuff out later. How's that?
Oh man, you got me.
That was good. Yep. And Jack's a good deal. But now I forget what I was saying. But it doesn't really matter. But it was
the camp. You were saying like the relaxed atmosphere. You're switching partners. You're getting to feel somebody from different backgrounds.
Yeah. So since nobody had anything to prove, they were in the student mode. Nobody, it was very accessible for everybody. And that was huge. And you still get that in a lot of camps, so that's a good deal.
So now, as far as like, okay, when you're going there, like you mentioned, there was some testing there and what have you. Would he change up, far as like, depending what levels of students were there, or that didn't really matter, or did he show a little of each? Like, I know mostly, it was mostly, I'm guessing, stick work, but did he veer off many times into empty hand, or other weapon, short, long?
So, I mean, the camps would cover everything from double stick, single stick, empty hand, a lot of empty hand work, a little bit of knife, hardly any spuddy dagger, and hardly any longer weapons. Probably those were the first group is largely what the whole test would be. And the tests kind of would have specialties over the years, but remember, I only saw him probably for 8 years before he passed, even though I got started a year or two earlier. But he would cover, basically the test would cover all the things, and there might be an emphasis, like especially towards the last half of that. A big part of the test was copy and variations. But he would make sure that people get through forms and applications of the forms, which I thought was brilliant, because everybody came with their own backgrounds and learned the forms and moved differently. But that was okay as long as you had the concept. So that brings me back to what I was saying before. But anyway, the concepts, you could show the applications. So if you could actually show the applications that you got and could apply in a believable way, even though you moved a little bit different, or maybe some order was changed or a foot was different, that was good, because he was trying to teach the concepts. The forms were a vehicle.
Got it. So in regards to your background, he was going to accommodate, so to speak, and let you bring your strengths and all that. Okay.
Right. I mean, so he was taught as art within your art. That's what he would always say. But everybody, a lot of people, might move like a kung fu guy like me, or a tai chi guy, or a karate guy, or a taekwondo guy, or a guy. It didn't matter, or gal. The flavor, he didn't try to change your flavor and your built-in movements. He tried to add some concepts and some flow and some adaptability and sensitivity and coordination, and give you more to make you a better martial artist, not to necessarily make you a better FMAer, right? You would pick that up if you wanted to, but he was trying to make everybody the best martial artist they could be and what he could bring to them.
Overall, interesting. Yeah, I just, again, just for these interviews, just his approach and how he went about it, coming to the States and getting these schools and spreading it. I mean, it's no wonder why Modern Arnis has the most practitioners in the world. I mean, it's just his model was, incredible. And if I'm not mistaken, he started coming here 80s, right? Late 80s, mid 80s.
I want to say, well, it would have so Remy.
Correct. Yeah.
It was way before my time, but I thought it was earlier than that. I'd have to look it up. So, but
yeah, it's in 80s, but I could be off. But still, though, even if you think about for 80s,
at that point, but yeah.
I mean, that's still pretty incredible what he was doing for that time. The vision he saw, I mean, just incredible. Wow. So then, so was most of your seeing him via camps, or do you actually come to school, do seminars as well, or?
So I was spoiled in Texas. So I was a poor grad student. Okay, there you go, Chad Bailey.
Okay.
But I was a poor grad student, right? So if he hadn't, background. So Texas kind of came to see Remy later than everybody else. So Texas is in catch-up mode. Sometimes we'd have 2, 3. I believe one year there was even 4 camps in Texas. But in between the middle of all those, you'd have a bunch of seminars, right? So you'd have maybe 10, 12, 14 seminars a year, or sometimes 6, But as a poor grad student with a flexible schedule, I could plan and make every single one of those. And so I did that.
Oh,
so I have, what did I figure out? Maybe 30 camps or so, and then maybe 50 or 60 seminars. So I got spoiled. And because he was trying to catch up that area, I got to because I wasn't able to go anywhere else. But to me, Texas is one state, even though it is 11, 12 hours to cross. And I was game to just drive wherever, right?
Yeah, but the way you were describing your location, kind of being in the middle, though, I mean, so you could access
that helps.
Where it was. So it looks like there were a couple planets lined up there. Wow, that's incredible. Yeah, that I didn't realize. He was in Texas there for catch up, because I heard about the East Coast camps and others. They, if I'm not mistaken, maybe like bi-yearly or something like that. But if you got to see him like via seminars 12 times, then the camps. Obviously, it's like it sounds like you got a lot of exposure to him during the tenure up until he was, his unfortunate passing.
I crammed in. Actually, I reconsidered. It's more like around 20 camps during that time, but I was able to cram that in and wouldn't trade it for the world. And I see GMZ has a note about arriving West Coast 75 and the first 81. So that's it.
75, man,
Yep.
that's just
Gahe.
Like Gahe was East Coast 70s, New York City, Queens. So he was definitely a pioneer. Wow. So then, all right. So, is there anything that just about him as a teacher? Like what could you share with the folks that really made him appealing, made him, I guess, where you wanted to be around him a lot. What was the attraction?
So the first thing he did was he was very involved. So if you were talking to him, you were the only person he was talking to, and he made you feel that, right? He had that connection. He would remember your name if you saw him in one camp or one seminar. Years later, he would do that connection piece superbly, right? The other thing is on top of that would encourage you, right? So, little kids learning, oh, you will be me. You're the next me, right? You're my inheritor. He'd tell people this right and left. Raymond and I were doing good in Texas for a while, so at some point he said that, we were his top folks. We knew that was encouragement. We didn't make a big deal of it. But I remember that because he said two things to me like that. One was that, so it was great. We're on the right track. That's all I took. And two, you will start a club at A&M. I go, okay, I guess I will.
Mm.
And it was a separate, devoted to just Modern Arnis. But he was very encouraging, and he knew he wanted to get people to be connected and love his art, not just him, for it to carry on his creation, his life's work.
Yeah, I tell you, when you remember somebody's name, that resonates with people. Especially if there's a significant gap of time and you walk in and he remembers. That really, I can tell you from my point of view, if that were me, like that would really stand out. Hey, wow, that guy just remembered my name. I haven't seen him in over a year now, and he's seeing thousands of students. And I've heard that before in previous interviews, that ability to connect, that just, I think it goes beyond charisma too. It sounds like, again, obviously I'd never met the man. I saw him in passing one time, ironically, at Lee Lowry's, and I worked for the state of Connecticut. Lee was the teacher as far as how to restrain people. And I goes, yeah, and Lee, and at the time I didn't put anything together. This is late 90s. And he goes, yeah, that's, talking about grandmasters, that there's a grandmaster right here. And it was him. And it just, when I look back now, I'm like, oh my God, I was in the same room with him. And, but what are you gonna do? You don't know, you don't know, right? And we got,
if you didn't know him, he'd just be a little bit older guy in a room somewhere, just like anybody else.
Yeah. Like he kind of went passing, like he, from afar, he seemed really friendly. He was talking. I didn't get a sense of awe that you know what I mean. Like he just, right, like you said, just kind of casual guy that was passing through and saying hello to everybody. And we got the Russian roulette, Brian. We got Jack Latour. We got early 80s, and Guru Vico's here. And
I hope Paolo has enough supplies.
Oh, he's gonna kill me. Oh my God. I'm in the torture chamber tonight. On my own show. That guy killed me.
It's out of love.
I don't care, Paulo. Still love you. I don't care if you charge me. They can be at my expense. It is at my expense. So then, all right. So lost my bearings here. Okay, so we got through the camps. So, all right. So you're kind of telling us about him and all that. So let's hear a couple. You mentioned some funny stories. So what are ones that you can say without getting in trouble?
I could say all of them except for one of them without getting in trouble. But so the first one is the very first time I met him. So, when you're, when there's somebody you respect as Poe, right, you're going to shake their hand and put their hand to your forehead, right? So we got to the camp, that very first camp in Dallas at the hotel, registered all that stuff, and I hear that we're going to be working out on the tennis courts. And I'm like, holy moly. I had just shaved my head. That was the first time I decided to go bald. I had long blonde hair before that. So I burn real easy. So I'm like, oh, let me put some sunscreen on there because I don't want to, be a blister for the whole camp. So I didn't think about that. I met him. I did the greeting that Eric taught me. And one of the things I didn't know is Professor Remy was very, very fastidious about his hands and cleanliness and things like that. So he looks at his hand that now has this grease on it and starts rubbing it and looks at me funny. And Raymond right behind me, without missing a beat, goes, "Don't worry about him. It's the chemo. He's not quite right." So that was the way I met Remy.
Oh, that's funny. Don't worry about the key. Yeah, don't.
We still tease each other about that, but yeah, that was the very first time. And so, but he was always had a quick wit, very funny, very comfortable. There's another story that I like to share just because it meant a lot to me. Not very funny, except for the part I can't say. But at one point, Hawk Time was hosting Remy up for a Friday seminar in Dallas. So Raymond and I drive up there. We go crash it. We arrive a little late because we didn't plan for the silly Dallas traffic. And walk in there. It's in the outdoors in the field, and right in the middle of it, Remy stops what he's doing and goes, "Raimundo, Tye," and goes up and gives us a big old hug. And again, there's that connection, right?
Mm-hmm.
We were connected. And we had a blast. And then, because we were going to take him down to Raymond was hosting his school. That's where I taught that at my Kung Fu, my non-A&M club, Kung Fu. I had 2 clubs at that time, out of Raymond's club. But we were going to then bring him down, and he was going to be hosted at Raymond's school the next day. So we did Hawk's seminar, had a good time. Then Hawk and Remy comes down with us. So Hawk drives, we drive Remy down, and spend the whole next day with him. And that's when, at least as far as I know, it was the very first time he kind of opened up the newer version of Toppy Toppy to at least Texas. I think other people had seen it, but we certainly hadn't. And he took us aside and did all that good stuff. So that meant a lot. But then, all that driving time, talking to him, just getting to know him much more differently than, you would catching stolen moments, right? You're in a vehicle in a cage, right? Visiting. And then the drive down to Houston, which is a lot, very long. What he did is, after the seminar at Raymond School, he said, "You guys come down with me. I want to do a private lesson. I'm going to train with Randy Shea down there." So he said, "You guys come." "Oh, really?" So we said, "Yes, we'll do that." And so we spent the whole day down in Randy's yard training just, Randy, Raymond, myself, Professor, and Jeff Blaney at the time came up as well. So it was just us in Randy's yard for a whole day. Just because Randy needed some people to work with, Raymond wanted some people to throw around to show with Randy, and just by saying yes and being willing to do all that stuff, we got one-on-one time with Remy for a whole day.
Yeah,
there was some funny.
It was very generous of him, Yeah.
It was really cool and inclusive, right? There's to be and have that connection. There's an inclusivity. You're part of something, part of a family, part of a sharing, right? An active sharing. So, but it's not funny. There's a funny part, but when I see you in person, we can cover the funny part. How's that?
No, perfect. Well, yeah, I'm sure you'll probably be coming to Connecticut for a camp or something or another.
I'm sure, yeah.
All right, we kind of went over. We made obviously it's so receptive and all that. You mentioned something about Tappy Tappy. Let's kind of go into that as far as material. Like that seems to be a big component. And maybe for the viewers who maybe don't understand and all that, could you maybe explain just in a general sense what that is?
So it has some history, but I'm going to do it from my viewpoint. I mean, I know some things that happened before and, where Tappy Tappy came from, but I'm going to talk from my viewpoint to what I directly experienced as opposed to what I learned, right? first part of that, the very first time I saw it was before he started spreading it in Texas. He was working with his, I think, nephew, Anding de Leon. He's down in Dallas, on the side before a seminar that Ron Van Browning was hosting. And I was watching, and I got a picture. In fact, on my website, there's a picture of Anding and Professor playing Tappy Tappy. And I go to Raymond, I want to learn that. And he laughs at me, makes fun of me, hey, when are you going to get to learn that advanced stuff? And sure enough, a year or two later, he starts unveiling it. I learned it as a left versus right first. I learned the left side first. That'll become important later. But so once I started getting a feel for it, oh, sorry, I got distracted by a comment.
I know.
PG Tye's online.
Well, he didn't realize it was his nephew. Okay.
Well, there's nephew in Filipino, right? So
yeah.
It was supposed to be some sort of relation, and I believe it's either nephew or cousin is introduced, which means could just be a family friend. But anyway, so as I was introduced to it, obviously it's a 2-person drill, single stick. There's a lot of managing with the hands, and then you'll often see people, especially people who learned it in the 90s, going in and out of single Sinawali and back then into these inserts in these sequences. One side is a feeder generally, one side is a responder. And the feeder will try to, so I learned it with Professor putting a lot of pressure from both sides. Both the feeder and the responder will put in good pressure on. I'm not saying fast or hard, it's just closing up things, jamming things up, making it so that there's really only one response, one or two, right? If you're doing that right, sometimes that means you're balancing the rhythm, sometimes the distance, sometimes the timing, sometimes the energy, right? And targeting, right? You got to make sure that if I'm going to your face, I'm going to go straight at your face. I'm not going to go off to the side. Otherwise, you don't get the same reaction. So it was a 2-person drill where we're a feeder, responder. There's a lot of butting in there. There's a lot of managing with hands. There's a lot of grabbing. And there's a lot of what ifs. So if I come at you with a punyo strike, well, there we go. There, a punyo strike right there. And you see it coming. You can either get hit by it, you can move, you can deflect it, or you can block it, right? So if I've canalized you, if I've made you, limited your options down to a few things, and you do one of those and I already know what that is, then I'm ahead of you, right? So it would be setting up those kinds of problems. So that's very similar in some ways to Blintwalk. And as you know, Remy's last start before he formed Modern Arnis that he studied was Blintwalk under a number of things.
Is in it, if I'm not mistaken. I've heard from few.
Yeah, I mean, so from the outside, if you weren't a Blintwalk or a Modern Arnis person, you saw Tappy Tappy and you saw the ungroup methodology of Blintwalk and you saw the different flavors of modified Blintwalk and you saw, some of the grouping style, you would see that a very clear connection. Remy's, I would say, his expression is not as much stick dueling as it is. If you take little pieces, snippets out, each one of those is kind of a self-defense problem, not a stick dueling problem, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So it's not really against someone who's equally trained as you as much. There's also footwork was less emphasized because it was natural. Remy was really big about natural footwork, and partly because a lot of times you bring in a lot of the students were well trained in other arts. They had their own ways of moving, and it's ingrained, right? You're not going to fix that coming in every once in a while.
Yeah, right. It just seemed like bi-yearly in camps, exactly.
Right. Right. Especially when some people, and this used to not make me happy, but they come from one camp and they go, oh, I'm going to test. They see them again next year at a camp, and they go, oh, I'm going to test. I'm like, oh, you've been working on this stuff. Where are you at? Oh no, I haven't picked up a stick since the last camp.
What would make interesting? What would make them just conclude that they would be in the test? Like,
because they've been doing it longer. I have no idea. That confused the heck out of me. But to me, that's throwing a gift back. So Remy gives you all of this stuff, and you're supposed to work on it, and you should, right? And then you just let it fall on the floor.
Yeah, and just assume that you're going to be testing just by mere tenure or year. Yeah.
I guess. I mean, if you wanted that, just print up your own certificate and write someone's name on it. I mean.
Yeah, right. And then you don't have to pay for the plane ticket to even go out there. You could just.
because you weren't anyway, right? If you weren't doing the work, you were essentially doing the same thing. But anyway, we get sidetracked, sorry.
No. That's just, that's unfortunate. When you said natural movement, you're talking about just walking, like as far as when you mention it.
Basically, I mean, kind of if you look at the difference between your classical old school Okinawan masters, right, and your more modern or maybe more Shotokan kind of purists, there's a difference in the way they move and walk. And let's not make the comparison fair. So what I'm trying to do is say, hey, whoops, there we go. Sorry, I got distracted by the comment again.
Jeremy, don't say.
But if so let's not make the comparison fair because that's not the point. The point is what I'm trying to get at is so way high level Okinawan people have a very upright kind of natural emotion. However, if you're to push on them or they were to strike you, you can feel their base. And if you say you got like a first degree, second degree of a very accentuated stance, kind of maybe even kung fu, like northern style or taekwondo or Shotokan, because they're known for the deep low stances. That doesn't move the same, right? Their natural movement is built in, evolves later, right? So if you see a very advanced Shotokan master, he doesn't move exactly that same way. Okay. There's an efficiency that you've got. Now, I like that idea. So one of the things I like to do is overemphasize a lot of structure, a lot of form, because it ingrains nice patterns that then you can put efficiencies on top of. But if you don't ingrain from a good position starting out, then what you ingrain tends to be very sloppy. So, and that's one of the advantages of Tai Chi, which is another art that I've studied and I used to teach. I don't teach anymore because nobody wants to do it as a martial art. So don't get me started.
Don't. Oh, and by the way, don't get me started.
Sorry, I almost got myself started.
No. You're fine. All right. When did you, as far as your ranking and all that, like, how many years? So, I mean, obviously, as you mentioned, you were seeing him a lot. You know what I mean? He was coming to Texas via camps and the seminars, Texas playing catch up. So, how did your ranking go?
Well, it was funny. So the very first camp, Eric was teaching us for over a year, and he gave us everything, and we knew his curriculum. That was all good, but we, never saw Remy, and he wanted Remy to give us our first rank, and we said, okay, good, we'll test for yellow. We didn't care. I mean, I was whatever degree in Kung Fu at the time. He was, I think, 5th degree in Okinawan Kempo at the time. Okay. So we test, and, the way they run the test back in the day was they would just run through material, and if you knew the next thing, you'd stay up until you got to things you didn't know for each section.
Oh, that's interesting. He would just keep you there until, okay.
Right. So everybody would run through the test, and then you'd fall out as you didn't know the stuff.
That's the first time I'm hearing this. That's fascinating. I've never heard of testing like that. Wow.
Yeah. So we stayed up all the time with everybody else. And so the board goes to, evidently, I heard about this afterwards, goes to Remy and goes, hey, I guess they should be black. Which was funny because we thought we were testing for yellow. Now, Remy, very smart that he was, because I can tell you that, if I didn't have the connection with Remy that I got, from feeling and get that good energy, if somebody gave me a black from the first camp that I was at, it wouldn't mean so much, right? And you could actually have a situation where if it doesn't mean much, you're like, well, wait a second. That's it? That doesn't seem right. Because I know I have, it didn't feel right. So the funny thing was, I think Raymond got a brown of some sort. I got a high green, which is the next one below brown, because they thought I was Raymond's student. Like I said, we came up together with Eric. But Raymond's the more outgoing and big cop guy, and he's got that commanding presence. So that I didn't really care. But so we got those colored ranks in the upper middle, right? And so, they said, okay, this is what they told you. And Eric was there. Eric goes, that makes sense. That's fine. You guys got higher than I was hoping for, so it makes me feel good. So we didn't embarrass Eric, so it was very good. And then so you could test next year. So what we did is we worked on the material some more. We tested. We brought Eric in some more to polish us and do things, and then we tested and we got, I think, black the next year. That wasn't the goal, though. The goal was to make sure that we were doing the right things for the right way, right? And not embarrass Eric. He was the one that started this and gave us everything. And then that's when, I think we both got also a basic or advanced instructor that first camp too, so we can start teaching. So that's when Remy said, "Hey, you will form a club," and I did. Best thing he ever did for me, because I then had to do my best with material that I knew what I needed to do for me, at the same time as teaching someone. So as you know, one of the best ways to learn something is to have to teach it in care.
We're going to get into that, how he really perpetuated that theme,
Yeah, the best thing he ever did for me. And when my Kung Fu teacher said as well, he said, "Hey, you'll form a club." I guess I will. Okay.
Yeah.
When Remy said you're going to do something, you would do it.
Yeah, no, I just think we're getting down. We got, hey, Guru Jeff, and we got Jeremy Tappy Town. I want to touch on that. I just think that's so relevant. And one of the unique things when I first heard it, how he really promoted that, and was that, hey, you're at this level, good, you have this, now go teach it, go spread it. And I so much agree with you. I really think it really instills your better understanding when you're relaying that information to somebody else. I think it compounds it better. I know for me at least, I can't speak on everybody, but I just know that it really benefits me. Then when I relay it to somebody, the understanding, the nuances, and so forth. You absolutely saw that. I mean,
and you feel that though, because that's because you care, right? I think there are sometimes people who go through the motions, and maybe you don't get that. That's just a guess, but I know for me, I was damned if I would have anybody that embarrasses me, but I didn't really care about that. But if they embarrass Eric, that'd be bad, because I owe everything in FMA to Eric, and I'll constantly go back to that. He was my first teacher, and got me started. As much as I love Remy, right? But I didn't want to embarrass anything or ultimately embarrass Remy. But because we care, we give our best to our students, and we know what mistakes we make, and we hopefully can help them avoid the mistakes they could make. And so, this idea, I'd always tell people before it was a fad. You can ask my first Kung Fu students in the late '80s. I want you to be better than me, because look, there's no such thing as maintaining. Your art's either getting better or it's getting worse. If I hold back to maintain something on you, then the art's going to get worse. If everybody does that, you chip it away, right? You chip away, and now you've got less and less each generation. That is stupid.
Yeah, like you might not like this. Well, this is my interpretation, but I left out these 10 things because I didn't like them. But the other person might have liked them, the student. Now you have a system that was maybe here to, like you said.
Right.
Yeah, no, agree.
Yeah, and as you know, this thing X won't work. Well, one, there's always a weird situation that it does, because we know a million examples of that. And two, just because I can't make it work doesn't mean you can't.
All right.
And actually, I got that from Kung Fu, because that was one of the things big. You can do all these traditional things, and I could go down another path. But anyway, you do all these traditional things, and you cover that whole space of the style. The style is the whole tableau, right? My viewpoint, where I fit in that tableau, is a subset of that. And I may fit perfectly, and I may be the best that I can be right in that place in the tableau. But if I'm trying to teach the tableau, I'm not going to be the one that's going to chip away at a style, because who am I to do that? I didn't make the tableau.
Yeah, and then you start pulling. Well, that's a good point, right? So it was handed to you in its entirety. Like, what would give you think that you should start chipping away at it? That's a good point. Yeah.
And I didn't fight like Remy did all over the place. I would never. I'm not touching his stuff.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Right. Yeah. Huh. No, that's good stuff. Good stuff. So, all right. So then you're starting to teach this. So did you start teaching right after that first camp?
I had a couple of workout partners. I want to say that I probably didn't actually form the club until I got black. So the next year. And then I even had some students in there that weren't part of my Kung Fu class, and then some did. But for some reason, I got them fooled. They enjoyed my classes, so they took both of them. I don't know why they were doing that, but
you got them fooled.
Right. So, but I appreciated it. And so I had some that were both. But yeah, I had the two separate clubs, and I just start them off on. I used the same curriculum that I got, the sheets and things like that I got from Eric, inserting a lot of things I got from the camps.
Wow. So this is circa 93, 94? Or?
Yeah, probably 94, maybe 95, somewhere in there, yeah. Or early mid-90s.
All right. So this is still in Texas.
Yep.
Okay. So you were kind of your backyard, garage, what have you.
We actually got permission to use weapons and training on the campus parks. We had to talk to the chief of the campus police and say, hey, can we have our club training out here in this park, Pencil Park as it was, because it had a covered area.
Mm.
You could actually work in the rain and stuff. I like being out in the park. I like being outdoors if we can, and I thought Arnis was great for that. So we were trained and bring our weapons there, and people look at us funny, and but yeah, we got permission from the cops to do that because weapons on campus, all that good stuff.
Oh, that was nice of them. Oh, okay. So no. So then, did you ever, while you were in Texas, did you ever, as the years went on, I'm not sure when you got Texas, but did you ever have an actual school or no?
Yeah, so I never had a school. So when I had the club at A&M, I had two clubs at A&M, and then I had two clubs off campus. And both of those clubs, the Kung Fu and my Arnis program, taught out of, well, like I said, the campus one already taken care of. Used the facilities, had the the sponsors there. Both of those taught out of Raymond's club, out of his school, and he had a huge, metal industrial building dojo with mats and fans and all that good stuff. And so, we worked out a deal where I could, one, we liked each other, obviously, but two, I wanted to make sure that he was taken care of if my people were using the facilities. So that's pretty much what I charged. I charged back, especially in those days, charged enough to support my martial arts habit. That's it.
That's what I try to do when I do. Like if they could pay for my teachers, to me it's a win-win. You know what I mean? Like if it pays for my training, I'm fine with it. And that's what so yeah, exactly. That's definitely a great way of looking at it. So what did you? So any initial? I mean, because you're teaching, after your first camp, you're at green belt level. Were there any initial challenges to you teaching it, or did everything kind of go smoothly?
Don't remember any challenges early. I mean, there was always a few. So first off, having the curriculum really helped, and having a really good teacher who was Eric Alexander again. I keep saying his name, sorry, but
No.
I go back to the roots, right? But having him to walk us through this in such a good way. Like I said, he was a master level in Okinawa Kempo. I didn't tell you that. He's also Okinawa Kempo, and he was at that point third or fourth Arnis. I think he got up to 5, but maybe it was 4. But anyway, having him teach gave me a good example, and then Remy as well. So I had a ton of things to show. Oh wow. Sorry, I got distracted. GM Bobby's saying
we got
hi.
GM Bobby. Yeah. No worries on being late.
I just saw him 2 weekends ago. We were at his birthday camp.
Yeah. Vico was there, and I was. I wish I just went down. Yeah. Well, next time.
Yeah, no real challenges. I mean, I had one Kung Fu student who I would describe as plywood with hinges. So he was challenging across the board, both in Kung Fu and Arnis. And, I was very encouraging and enabling. And it was funny because he actually didn't want to test unless he was ready. And he would work hard and he would do all the good things. And so, it took him a long time to progress, but he didn't have a problem with that. And I didn't have a problem with that because it wasn't about the progression. It was about the understanding and the skill development. You could see little steps of your own progression. This other stuff didn't matter. And so one of the things I taught my students a long time ago, because I never did it, was to ask to test. I never asked to test. I encouraged them to, hey, just, we're going to work on your stuff. You're going to get good stuff, whether it's Kung Fu or Arnis. You're going to feel better about it. And I want you to test when I think you're ready, but also, I'm not going to hold you back, but also when you feel ready, not, hey, I just learned this and I've memorized it. Can I test? No. Have you had some fermentation on time? Have you put in the reps? You started learning from what you remember as opposed to remembering it, that kind of stuff. Anyway, so all of those things together, I never really had any big challenges except for there was people I wanted to help more.
Okay, all right. No, sounds like it was a smooth transition. All right. What do you know, as far as your students? Obviously, I'm sure this has changed over the decades that come as you became a more seasoned teacher and have you. But overall, what do you try to instill in your students as far as their journey is concerned?
Now's the time for another one of my sayings.
Okay.
So one of my sayings is, if you're not learning, you're dying. the joy of learning and progression and the challenge of getting it better at whatever it is that you love. I actually don't have an agenda for the students other than that, because say you come to me and you want to learn, you want to be more coordinated and be able to move and look cool. All right, that's cool. I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm going to do along those lines and where it does and doesn't fit, and then you decide if you're enjoying the class. Or maybe you want to spar a lot. We don't do a whole lot of sparring, but we do some. Okay. And at least you know what you're getting into, and I'll tell you where we fit, and I'm happy to, if you're happy, then I'm happy. As long as you're learning and getting better.
Okay, so, right. And you can always refer them, you know, elsewhere. And yeah, right.
Progression.
Absolutely. I'm going to show this. Oh, we got Guru Danny. So just, I was looking through your YouTube. Yeah, he's a good. Yeah, we're all good guys here. I'm going to show this video, folks. And when I was going through your YouTube channel, this kind of stuck out, and maybe because it was just something maybe I haven't seen before. So let's.
Oh, okay. I know what that is.
So I'll show it, and after that.
Hello, welcome to Just One Thing for Modern Arnis. I'm PG Tye Botting, and the job for today is going to be on a modified casting that Professor Remy used to always do. So if John gives me a number 1 strike, and I'm blocking, this casting is I'm going to come underneath both hands and boom. Okay, from the other side. It's same thing. He goes number 1 strike. I'm going to block it. So you see that's happened there. I block it. Instead of checking, I'm coming underneath and pivoting on my heels and pulling and striking. So you see what happens is I come across and I pull and strike. Okay. So in some styles they call it a subleague, but normally subleagues are usually in this area. Okay. So this is coming underneath. It's a knockout strike. Okay. It's one of the professor's favorite strikes. One more time on the other side, and we'll let you try it on your own. Okay, he does number 1, I pop, I come, and I pull and hit. Notice that the pull makes him jerk, so I'll just do the pull here, not the hit. Boom. Okay, so all of that goes into the strike. All right, so thank you.
All right, I don't know why that came back. Let me just X that. All right. And then let me get back into there.
You got all the fancy controls. I don't know how to do that magic.
It's a trial and error. I'll tell you that. But I don't know. So yeah, walk us through that. What's that about?
Yeah, so it's funny. That was part of the toppy that he would show us back in the day. In fact, actually, that is an excerpt out of a drill that hardly any people saw, because it was, I think, a drill that happened on a mistake, right? He was demonstrating with somebody and they'd moved wrong, so he went with it and did a whole new thing. There you go. GMZ. Yes. And so I'm smiling because that's another place where I felt that internal connection from Remy, which, as GMZ just pointed out. So that is an outside casting, and it usually does not come from a straight in hit, right? Usually you're either probing or whatever you're striking, or you get a response and you're going from there. So it's in the midst of movement. But it's simultaneous, for 1. 2, it's all from the waist and that internal power generation. And 3, because there's that connection of that arm and you have that arm jerking, basically when that arm jerks and you pull back, now your head is exposed for that knockout strike. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And if you ever felt Remy jerk you like that, he almost knocked you out just from the jerk, because he was so dang powerful. And I really love that. That's like I said, it's sort of a subleague or a casting in Balintawak circles. So I'm laughing also because when I first learned that, I used to call it the Balintawak strike. I didn't know what I was talking about, but I called it the Balintawak strike. It's how I memorized it, because somebody had told me there was a similarity, and I just made that connection. And then now, starting to play with a little Balintawak on the sides, I see more and less, both the good and the bad of my association there. But yeah, it was one of the favorite things he used to do, and he would just throw people around and jerk them. And if he wasn't holding back on that stick, and you have to hold back pretty hard because you're doing it right, you're toast.
The reason why it caught my eye was when I was looking at when you're, obviously everybody going here, they leave the weapon there, you sell your checking wing, your checking hand and all that. But when you're coming into that, could you also lift up as you're passing the hand up? You might have been doing that,
Yeah. So what happens is so let's see if I can show it here. If you hammer block that strike that's coming in for whatever you made them do that for, because usually you're probably doing it on an initiator side as opposed to just saying, hey, strike at me, I'm going to do this to you. You would hammer in on that, and as soon as that contact happens, you're already sort of getting out of the way with your hip turn, and your hip turn is what powers this passing hand, not your arm. Your hip turn makes that happen, and then all you really have to do is turn your hand like this, and then you got the strike. So if I turn and turn, now I have
coming around. Gotcha. Okay.
It's not an abanico. It's pop pop, and then I just turn it, and my whole turn goes straight into the strike.
Yeah, your whole hip rotate. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so if you could sort of imagine that your arms are like 2x4s, and all you're going to do is turn your hand over, and you turn with the full power of your core. Well, yeah. Because this passing hand is clipping that wrist, and it folds. So you get that joke. Anyway, it's hard to describe without sticks and partners, but it's easier to show.
No, your explanation there in parallel to the video, I think was well done. I'm definitely getting the gist of what you're talking about. Definitely can see that passing your arm, torquing his body, and all that does the exposure of the head and all that. So definitely seeing that. Yeah, it's something.
Next time you talk to Chris, you can ask Chris Chu. You can ask him how it feels to be jerked like that, because I didn't do that move on him, but he knows the jerk because I've done that.
Yeah. I'll have to ask him, Chris. And by the way, okay, we got that. We showed it. All right. So, okay. So your ranking structure for your students, with regards to Modern Arnis, you kind of follow the same template, with as far as what was handed to you.
Yeah. So it sort of evolved. So while Remy was alive, and just maybe, maybe till 99, 2000, I was following pretty much all exactly what Eric gave us with some notes, clarifications, and/or additions. Somewhere around that time, we started sneaking in more notes and then moving some things around. Nothing was ever dropped, but we'd move things around, or we'd use Remy's terms, or maybe emphasize areas that Remy did, because he was changing. Even those 8 years that I had with him solid, he was evolving and changing emphases that whole time. So then that happened, and then now, of course, I still play with everybody, but I'm also I'm on the board for the FMA. So I use their curriculum for my official students, and I use kind of a hybrid from the best of that and the best of the old way of doing things for my internal my students that aren't going to necessarily or aren't interested in the association. And it's funny because the insurance I have right now, it's a little rough because I'm teaching in the park and I have a weird travel schedule, as you just noticed this last weekend. And I warned them when I first came, I said, hey, we're teaching the park. I'm teaching the park because I need some training partners, and I want to make sure I don't get worse, which means I have to try to keep getting better. So I'm going to bring you along with me, but it might be a little strange. So it might be going, maybe it's everything goes around a circle. Maybe I'm going back to what you were describing used to be.
Yeah, so there might be some current in the water.
Yep. There we go. Chris is on, actually.
And we got Chad just throwing out there when you might be teaching again. I can hit you in a way that makes your stomach fall through your blank. Ooh.
I don't think I actually said that, Chris.
Okay.
He's probably right. That doesn't. I don't know. I deny that. I deny that.
You deny that. Okay. Or you're taking the fifth. All right.
So I mean, I do like the internal stuff. I like the power generation, and it's funny. Like I said, I felt it what Remy did. I'm not sure everybody else did. I'm not saying I'm special. It's just that I was trained that way. And Remy had so many skills. If you were trained in some X number of things and had some advanced skills, he's going to have some of those too. So it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. But anyway, that's an area of interest and emphasis of mine. So I like to explore those things. I like to work as hard as it takes to hit as hard as possible with the least amount of effort. So again, I go through and
I think that's
I'm lazy or efficient. You take your pick.
when you just so you touched on something that I'm going to be quite honest on here that I didn't think I'd ask you as a question. With regards to, again, the previous guest I had regarding Modern Arnis and GM presses, what was his back? I know Blentuak, all this, but I guess what was the accumulation of his background as far as different styles?
Something I know for sure is the family art that he watched, and this has been corroborated by a lot of people. So it is polys based, so passing based, catching and passing, or passing without stopping and catching, right? Because that's the higher skill. He also trained with Federico Lazo was one of his childhood friends, and so that's another style of Arnis that's similar but not. Of course, he had boxing. He had the Shotokan and judo backgrounds, and he was pretty high ranked in both of those.
Okay.
That's where he got the belting and ideas for uniforms and all that good stuff. But of course, he had the Blentuak. I know his brother had some exposure to Lightning Scientific, or maybe before it was Lightning, but anyway, some exposure to GM Benjamin Luna Lima. I'm not sure if Remy did or not, but Remy did travel the islands, and we got confirmation when we were talking to GM Vervilliusin 2 weekends ago, because he was also at GM Bobby's, which was cool. Had a good set of conversations, and he described Remy as a hopper. He would hop and learn as much as he could from everybody. So I know of at least 4 Blentuak teachers that he learned from. Moncol, Moranga, also Ver's father, the elder Villiusin, and then of course Anchon Becon, and who knows who else. That's just within Blentuak.
Oh, interesting.
So he was a kind of like me. So so why do I play with all the groups? I saw Remy a fair bit, but only in Texas. I know I missed a ton of things. I know I came late to the game, but I want it all. So you can say I'm a greedy bastard. I want every piece of Remy and his knowledge and understanding that I can have, so I can be better, and so I can have other people share in that and share the joy and the appreciation, and also sharing his life's work. And I think that's one of the things that makes me sad about some of the weirdnesses with people. But I think that if I could play with everybody, which I try to do, I can get pieces of those things, and I can be that greedy bastard. And I'll go be a student. I'll go, even when I'm teaching as an instructor at a big camp or a seminar, when it's not my session, I'm out there working. Unless in the old days my hip was bothering me, not so much now. But I want to do it all and get better, and I know how much I don't know, and I know what my problems are. Maybe you can help me with them, right? I mean,
I think that's such a wonderful outlook that you just mentioned there. That you're not too far above where you can't share the floor, and the willingness to learn and be exposed to maybe things that maybe you didn't fully understand or you want to get a better handle on. I think that's terrific stuff, and I wonder why you're well liked.
I think I got a lot of people fooled, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we got Guru Danny, who I think's another cool cat. Would love to share to teach with you. Same floor.
That'd be great.
Only greedy if you don't share. You can't argue that. So when you what you just mentioned there, do you take that too in regards to like everything? It doesn't matter, other FMA systems, it could be they're showing you Western boxing, whatever,
right.
Savant, anything.
Pretty much. I mean, I know some things that don't work very well because I like, I have some limitations, but also have some movements that are funny. So boxing doesn't fit with me real well, partly because of Kung Fu and partly because of the way I've taught myself the internal stuff. My heel's always on the ground. That kind of stuff. I can move because I work my stances. Another story, but there's certain things that I can do and can't do. But beyond that, yes. So when we go to the Philippines, I make sure I've trained with some colleagues of the Coach Arnold Narzo, great guy. I love training it. I didn't know what he was doing, so I try my best. I'm going, how do you do this again? It's great. I love it.
You're on KI. Yeah.
That's right. Do some. But Panatukan over there, I did some Kuntao. A lot, I like being outside my comfort zone. ultimately, even if you don't do that stuff, it helps you understand your own art better. One of my students in the park is a master level in Kung Fu Silat. Great guy. Anybody would do well to study with him any day. But he comes to be in student mode, and he doesn't come to learn Modern Arnis, even though he does it and he's picked up a lot. He comes to understand his own system better because it's a different viewpoint. He sees what we're doing and how does he move naturally? How does he want to do? What am I doing different that maybe he can take advantage of, learn, use, feel, defeat? It doesn't really matter. You're examining what you already know through a different set of eyes, and so you get to get better about your own stuff.
No, I think that's profound. I think that's well said, and somebody that's obviously very comfortable in their own skin. When it comes down to it, right? I mean, if you're free of ego, you're comfortable in your own skin, and you truly believe, like, because you truly believe that you're always a student, well, then you will demonstrate that. You know what I mean? You'll put yourself on the floor, regardless of your rank and all that, and because there are a lot of people say that, and I'm always a student, and I gotta be honest with you, I'm like, not seeing it.
I think one of the key things, and maybe Remy tapped into that. He said, "Have fun." To me, if you can't, so a big part of it is being able to laugh at yourself, right? If you don't care, or you can find humor in your own mess ups. Hey, I'm gonna train, go to Dean Franco's seminar. I'm gonna do something, and gosh, I dinged my knee or I fell over. That's pretty funny. But as long as you don't kick me out, then I'm gonna still learn something, and we can all laugh about it.
I promise I wouldn't laugh. No.
Maybe later we all laugh together on that.
Oh my goodness! All right, let's get into this. Is something I'm really curious about. And all that. When I noticed on your website there, you're ranked both in Perpetuating Arnis and Modern Arnis. So what can you tell the folks who might not understand the differences between the two and the similarities, I guess?
Right. So let's see a couple things. First off, I got the rank from Remy, and that's how, Remy's braces, Modern Arnis, that's exactly where I got to. I think, he asked me to test twice for third. I had a wrist injury that I was recovering from. I didn't want to test, so I didn't want to do a bad job, right? And so I didn't, thinking I could do it later, and of course, that went away. So I was second for, which is third level, second for, I want to say 15, 16, 20 years. I don't know. I guess 15 years. And the three things happened. One was Dr. Dieter yelled at me for not being higher ranked because it was setting bad examples. Two, I couldn't take care of my students who had been teaching on their own as well and got it to my rank through other sources, some under Remy, and couldn't go anywhere, and they couldn't take care of their students, right? And then three, I got recognized without knowing it, and people decided to give me rank from what I showed, I guess. So that's how the rank came. As far as modern and Praxis, so in the WMA, the Praxis Arnis includes modern. So you have the Modern Arnis curriculum for the WMA up through the rank that you're going at, and that's also included. It also has the Praxis Arnis, which has a few other influences like Ernesto material and Roberto material and a couple other adjustments. So we're trying to keep the core of Modern Arnis identifiable and carried on, even though we're exploring some of the other Praxis influences, if that makes sense. So that's why that rank is the same. As far as the combatant, that was carried over similarly back in the day, and it's no longer done. So that's why I have a fourth in combatant. I can speak combatant, I can do all the things with people, but I wouldn't try to teach it. But I can play with everybody, and it's all good. If you notice, so the only time I put PG on is official things or seminars or the show that we have, right? Because people want to know who the heck these goobers are. But it's just Ty, right? Just like Dean and Bobby, right? It's Bobby.
It's just Dean. Yeah, I
right,
can't.
exactly.
Yeah, I'm not a title guy. I can't stand. Yeah, but hey, but I don't mind people that do like them. If that's your thing and that's what you want to be called, doesn't bother me. You know?
Yeah, it's weird because it makes me. So we want to be relaxed and have fun. I get a little.
I know that whole time. Right. Yeah. So just remove the titles, make it completely relaxed, and yeah, now we have a common ground or more common ground. You know?
Right. But it's good for official things, and it's good for starting students, and there's a lot of good things for it. Yeah, I don't have a problem either way. It's just not something to emphasize.
I'm with you. I don't have a problem either way. I don't mind being that's what they want to be addressed, but I just don't want it. I don't want to attach. You know.
I'm going to call you Supreme Great Grandmaster Dean.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
All right. Good. I'll write it down. There we go. We got our recording.
Grand Tuhan Supremo, Grand Master Dean. All in that order.
Okay. Well, it's funny. I mean, because there's connections with the style. There's connections with the students and the students of your students. I mean, let's see. What do I have? I have students that are masters in Modern Arnis. I have students, and they have students that are teaching, and their students are coming up as well. That's pretty cool. But it doesn't mean anything for me. I mean, it's great that I'm helping carry on, but it doesn't make me any better.
Right? No, but that's neat that, like you point out, that you act that lineage that you're part of and creating. Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely something to be happy about.
But I mean, so these titles, I think, are a connection like that for people a lot of times, and also a respect, right? So if you just say, how can I say this correctly? If you got a style and it has titles, or if you got a style or an organization or anything, and there isn't something that can be a rallying factor, titles are something that could be. I guess my point is, I think that it's useful to have a rallying factor that's external, to help focus people or to keep a measure of respect. Now, granted, I mean, I'm a firm believer that respect is certainly earned and and granted from that earning, not by default or by force. But I was always raised to be respectful of folks from the get-go, and then what they do, they can decide if that goes up or down themselves, right? And how to treat people. But I'll give you a starting respect, and hopefully it just snowballs from there, right?
No, I think that's a nice way to put it, and try to instill in others. Yeah, right, as far as modeling is concerned. No, I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah. See, no reason why I guess you're so well liked.
I heard way too many positive things, and as you, I think I get the same feel from you. That kind of stuff probably makes you a little nervous, but I don't know.
Yeah, I just it's like I think it is when when say Guru Dean, and I'm thinking because I really I firmly believe in that, I'm always student. I purposely will put I want to be on the bottom because I have to keep climbing and looking up and looking up. So it keeps me for me, and I'm not saying this should be for everybody. It's what I use to keep me motivated and keep me in the game and climbing and climbing. So I never want to be at that plateau where I'm called something. And again, this is just for me. I'm not saying that this fits everybody, but I always want that where I have to keep that adrenaline and that motivation, and that's going to keep me climbing and hungry, But some people, that might be affected by it. So, which is nothing wrong,
Goals are good. I also think, really hitting home with me as far as being able to take care of my students, right? To have them set up to where they can succeed, because in a society where they're every bit as good as the 5th degree down the road or better than, and they're first or second, it doesn't really set them up well for outsiders, right? Once somebody sees that they know what they're doing, but we're not trying to we're not trying to bring in new people that already know stuff, because they're not new, and those aren't the people that help things grow. Does that make sense? So
no, absolutely, yeah.
I could see that, but it really hit home for me though, is taking care of my students, because and they're taught also that the rank isn't the goal. But it was funny because so my Kung Fu style actually went through this. Our style skill-wise only went up to 5th degree for the longest time, and our people were not getting some jobs that they wanted overseas to do teaching Kung Fu, just because of the relative or the perceived disparity in skills, just because people are looking on paper, right? They wouldn't even get inside the door, so we restructured to a 10 degree like everybody else, and then it was more comparable. Then you can get inside the door and then make your own way, but it's just like having a degree, right? degree doesn't necessarily guarantee you're going to do the work. I mean, an academic degree, but it does sometimes get you in the door so you can show that you can do the work.
That you can't, or the opportunity that you can show you can do it. Sure. No, I like that. I agree with that. Yeah, 100%. Wow, good stuff. All right. So we kind of went over the difference between Précieux Arnis, Modern Arnis. So is it fair to say that Précieux Arnis is accumulation of the brothers' material, where Modern Arnis is just Remy? Is that fair?
Modern Arnis, by my definition, is Remy and anything that's directly recognizable as Remy, right? Because everybody's going to have their own flavor and take on things, and so that gives you room for, hey, you put these two things together that Remy showed you, and it's still a Remy thing, but you made a new word with it. Maybe that's still modern, or maybe it's so different that you deserve credit for that, right? So anyway, so for me, Modern Arnis is what Remy did, and everything that is easily, everybody would agree, is recognizably Remy. That's Modern Arnis.
Okay.
And then the brother pieces are what's added to that to kind of flesh out or make up or contribute to, whatever you want to word. I don't want to say the wrong words and get somebody spun up, but that then builds it out to Précieux Arnis. Not saying it's more, it's just different, because a lot of times it's just different ways of looking at the same thing.
I got you. No. Okay, fair enough. All right, so you're again reflecting back to your website, the Hall of Fame. So your Hall of Fame in Modern Arnis, that's nice. So is that with? So I saw a couple Hall of Fame. So I'll let you kind of explain it.
So I never wanted to do a Hall of Fames at all, ever. I was nominated for 3 of them by people I respect, and so I did those. So I was nominated for the one, the Action by Dr. Tim. I was nominated for the one in Houston by my longtime Kung Fu teacher, Grandmaster Wong. And then the Hall of Fame, the Remy Précieux Hall of Fame Foundation, or Hall of Flame Foundation, I was nominated for that as well. And because that's Remy's art and it means so much to me, I did that one as well. But to me, it's an acknowledgement of their kind of whatever they thought they saw in me, if you will, and a respectful kind of saying thank you, right? So I accepted and did those despite my not wanting to, because of that. And I know it looks good for the future and things like that. Because one of the things I want to do is when I retire, I want to get out there and do a lot more seminars, so I can retire to do my good, cool things, right? Because I don't work to live and die. I work to live and live.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. You retire. Yeah. Well said. Just quickly, the mayor of Houston. So that's I thought that was kind of neat. What's going on with that?
So I'm not sure how that all works out, but again, Grandmaster Wong arranged for that one year. I go down every year to this Chinese New Year celebration, and I usually do some seminars for him. Usually do the banquet and things like that. And he likes to recognize the students. So one of the things he did for me, and he does this for his advanced folks sometimes, is arrange for the mayor of Houston to nominate a particular day, only one day in 1 year, not that same day every year, to say that's, say Dr. Tye Botting Day, right? So he did that, and, I smile about it. I appreciated the goodwill, and I appreciated the recognition from him that he was wanting to do that. I'm sure it probably cost him something, but that was, not asked for, not expected, just out of the blue. And so, okay, that's pretty awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I'm sure they're all well deserved. I mean, so, you on your website, and this really resonated with me. We kind of touched on it a little already, and basically, you advocate the continuous learning, not just for yourself but your students. Wow, and this really resonates with me. Why overall, but not just yourself but your students as well.
Well, it still boils down to that philosophy. There's no such thing across the board as maintaining. If you're not getting better, you're getting worse. So if you're not learning, you're not seeking to improve, you're not doing any of that stuff, then you're just
stagnant, right?
Which goes to rot eventually, right? And you know, I really truly want everybody to be as good at what they enjoy, so they can enjoy it more as they can possibly be. So if I can help in that, that's cool. I have one student. He's actually he's a Kung Fu and Arnis student. He was, I'm not going to say a name, but he was a delivery guy while I was in grad school. We used to live together, and of course he trained with me. And I got him. I said, if I can do grad school, so can you, because he was asked about it a few times. I said that one too many times. He went to grad school, and now he's a well-respected sociology professor. He travels around giving lectures and things like that. And this was a delivery guy, a bread delivery guy. Very good friend of mine, amazingly smart and empathetic and wonderful human being. And his father to this day still thanks me. So if I don't do anything good other than that, I can rest easy because I changed someone's life for the better, even just with my little silly poking and prodding.
Oh my gosh! From a driver to touring around now giving lectures in sociology. Yeah, absolutely. So now, okay, so you, as far as piggybacking off this, the student, all that. So do you train with Dr. Tim? Or you like do you guys train together? What's that about?
Well, he would tell you we're peers. He's been doing Modern Arnis longer than me, as a lot of field folks have. We're friends. I like the structure of the organization. Like I said, I still play with all the others that will have me, and they all do so far, because they all have a piece of Remy. But yeah, so we're friends. He would say peers. I think he has lots that I can learn from. So I'm taking advantage of that. Remember, I'm greedy. We said that already. So
we established the greedy part.
That's right, exactly. So yeah, I like, and you know, why I'm on the board in there. One, I think I can make a difference advising from the inside, and two, I do like the structure and what he offers for the students. I think structure and curriculum we talked about earlier is a big kind of anchoring thing, so people can, you know, see where they're going. I'm not saying nobody else has structure like that. Some of them do. But I like the exploration he's doing. So if you notice my Facebook group, it's called Arnis Exploration. That speaks to the same kind of philosophy, right? Where you're trying to really dig and explore and make sure you get better and put the work in. And I'm a big fan. So people will put in, a lot of times they'll put in the physical work, right? They'll do the reps. You can't get the most out of everything just doing the reps. You have to do the reps with the right intent and the right analysis, the right exploration. I'm going to go one little sidebar here. So we have forms, or say you have a technique, or say you have a drill. The way I would teach it is exactly as perfect as I know how. And I want you to do that. Great, you'll do that. I also want you to play with it. Okay, do it super fast. Do it super slow. Do a broken rhythm. That's obvious. Now you're going to do it really, really clenched. Now you're going to do it really soft. Now you're going to do it sloppy. Now you're going to do it over exaggerated. Now you're going to say if it's got footwork and handwork, you can just do the hands, you're just going to do the feet. So you're going to start looking at this rock of the piece of material from all these different directions. Now you understand the rock a whole lot better. So,
I like that.
So yeah, you just you might have to do it like you're drunk. I don't care. Explore you got, so you can get the most out of that nugget. Unless you're looking at that nugget from all the directions, you really don't know the nugget.
No, it's true. No, I like that. Well, yeah,
I got a lot of work to do. Sorry.
No, I think it's great. Now let's get on to the show. You guys do the show together. You know, I watched it a few times when I can, when I'm not doing test runs, interviews, and all that.
Yeah, I do that.
Yeah, I know. Like, but I think you two make a good pair, and the reason why I say that is you could see the clear, distinct contrast in your personalities, and I think you complement one another really, really well. And so when I do get on, I enjoy seeing the chemistry with you two. I really do, from afar. So I'm a fan, and all that. So he kind of got you involved, asked you like, hey, you want to do this with me? And is that kind of how it manifested?
Sort of grew. So what happened is after Remy died, there was a little bit of, I was still, supporting the IMAF like I was, in the time, and I still support them, but I was active in there and I was just kind of content there. there was some splits and some weirdnesses and some politics about the year 2 or maybe 1.5, somewhere in there.
Come on, politics and FMA. Come on.
Exactly.
I mean, come on.
But it just got to be not so fun anymore. Yeah. And so what I did is I said, wow, this is really detracting, but I don't hate the art. So what I need to do is distance myself. So I was a little bit of a hermit. It also corresponded with me moving away to Louisiana, where I was teaching at Northwestern State University, or near the end of that, and then I moved out to DC. But I was a hermit, and I was basically just training and teaching on my own without, kind of just went like this, la 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 la, and was off in my own place. And that was really good because I got to explore what I had, because Remy gave me just so much to work with that I could do that forever. So I don't think I missed out, but I was certainly, like I said, training and teaching, but I was not part of the bigger picture. Okay. And then when I was out here after a number of years, maybe around 2013, I was at an East Coast gathering held by the Chrysostomos. It's a multi-FMA style gathering that they have. Really good event, all the different styles playing and sharing together, which I love. And I walked down the hall to register, and up comes Tim, and I hadn't seen him since the 90s, and it was like old times. We hugged, we said, wow, where you been? We caught up a little bit, and then he encouraged me to get on the floor, and he said, which I think is really cool, and he's the head of that organization, and we hadn't seen each other forever. He said, get on the floor, I'm going to get you a spot here, and use me as your dummy, and go hard. And so I did. And, that kind of openness counted for a lot. So it was like old times, and then, I started going to more of his events, and it developed from there.
No, that's fantastic. That's great. No, that you guys reconnected, and now you guys are kind of doing the show together, and man, that's nice to hear. So you guys, I've seen some of them. You kind of more in the Modern Arnis track. I know you guys have gone outside that as well a few times, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, we're actually going to have GM Bobby on soon, and I think also GM Dan Medina.
Good. All right. What if you had time and you had the interest, what other FMA system would you like to experience?
Gosh, I haven't found one that, well, that's not exactly true. So let's see. I really like working with Coach Narzo a lot. If I were over there, I would, enjoy that. I like a lot of them. I like what I see of Jim Riddell when we're over there, and he's just a funny guy, which has been very inclusive again. I like Pakiti, and partly because maybe my friendship with Jack Latour, which is funny because he's only friends with me because Chad told him to be. A mutual friend of ours. And so I've been crashing their camps, and I enjoy that. And am I learning and turning into a PDK guy? No, but I'm expanding my boundaries. And again, I get to look at their material with my eyes and get to be better at whatever it is that I do. And do I do some of their things? Yes, I do, because it's cool. I would never say I'm a PDK guy. And of course, I love playing with my Valentois brethren. GM Bobby is amazing, and I think just a joy to be around in a lot of the same ways that Remy was. And of course, he's for some reason we count each other as friends, so I'm very blessed with that. I love all the Valentois stuff, whether it's grouping, ungrouping, any of them. I haven't found one that I don't like. Partly because I see the connections and what I can do to make my own toppy better, even though it's not Valentois. Because again, I'm greedy. I saw GM Dan Medina at Bobby's recently. I was really impressed with the Dorobios. I really liked that. The feel and the control and the power and the pain, or as I say, information, because pain is information, that he showed was great. So I saw some Serrata stuff from Guru Ruel, who passed about a year ago now. Rest great guy. Another benefit for him, and he was overjoyed at the support that we got for him. And I liked what he shared. I can't. I think all of it. How's that? Is that a fair thing to say? Give me all of the.
No, there was no right or wrong. Absolutely, there was no absolutely. Yeah.
Again, I guess that fits with the 3D piece again.
Yeah. No. That was a good answer. Yeah. Future goals for you and yourself. You're in Virginia now, so you're obviously teaching out of there. What are the future goals for you yourself there, as far as yourself and students, system, what have you?
I think I've got several. I mean, I'll start with the short-term goals. The short-term goals, I want to get, there's a few of my people that have been putting up with me for a long time. I want to get them more comfortable with what I know that they know. And so for a couple of them, I'm pushing them to go ahead and get tested and ranked, so you'll feel what I know. You know what I'm saying? Because they're also humble and shy, right? And they don't need to be. So I want that to happen. So in the short term, I want them to be realizing where they've gotten to, and not just keep focusing on that place down the road that they are not there yet. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
You also have to realize what you're doing good along the way. So that's an easy goal. I wish I had more time to do Sundays. I mean, I want to be able to travel and do all these events and still share and make sure that people are doing good on the Sundays that I'm not here. It's just Sundays. It's 2 hours in the park. So that's the short-term goals. Long-term goals, I'm still concerned about Remy's legacy living on. It's something that we talk with, and whoever I talk that's been around a long time, we always come to this subject and go, where's that next generation? It's not going to be me. I'm 56, right? I'm not the next generation. That, people are my age are disappearing right and left. Hopefully I won't be one. You never can tell, right? But in order for the art to live on, we need a big enough of a pond, big enough gene pool, so that people can carry it forward. Remy's love. I think, if you read the will that was in Dan Anderson's book, the Modern Arnis section was rife with the feel of how important it was to him, his legacy, what he created with limited education, with limited background, and he just grew it everywhere, like the coronavirus, but a good one.
Yeah, right. But a good virus. Yeah.
Right. So that worries me, and because of all of that I know that I missed, and all that I know that heck, I have, when he first started teaching us some of that topic I was telling you about, I have recordings of that, and I can see new things every time I look at that, and I was there. So how are we going to get this thing passed on? None of us did have his background. None of us fought like he did. To carry that forward, I don't know how you do it. So we can carry the pieces we can as hard as we can, and however that means, whether you're committed to nailing what you know and making sure that gets passed on, or whether you're trying to explore the roots and pieces, like I like to do, and a few others, or whether, however it ends up being, grab that, make sure it's passable, and then make sure that you pass it, right? So there's several steps in there that are a little worse. I'm sorry, I went on and on too much, but
no. I think you're right on. But as FMA as a whole, like if we don't get the youth in there, like I look at some systems in 10 years, I don't know if you're going to see them anymore. The names will be there, but far as the perpetuation thereof, the carrying out, and there's a few, I don't want to say their name, but I mean, I just think because they're not being really cultivated, they're, that the head died, and then there was a fraction, and then now the fraction, some are perpetuating, some are not. You know what I mean? And it just so I think as a whole, FMA as a whole, I think if we don't really like Taekwondo, if we use the Taekwondo model, for instance, the whole kids and all that, and it's happening in the Philippines. I think they're actively making an effort to do that as far as there. I think there's some schools here that are solely just schools on FMA that we had the show on. So I think it needs to be like continuous, more, and all that. To much to your point, I think it could be scary in 20 years. I know when we're,
Well, it's really weird because we all know that there's those hidden schools how do they keep going? I don't know how that works. It's almost probably like a crapshoot. But for the ones that are not hidden, you have these fractures and things like that. But or maybe you have a family system, right? You're only giving it to the family. There's a style I know where the son did inherit the art, but he wasn't as that far along as the others. They decided not to have a split, and he decided, hey, look, I'm going to make sure I take advantage of these guys to bring me along and make me deserving of inheriting it. That was awesome.
I was going to say that is truly awesome and not really heard.
I'll give you the name afterwards if you don't know who it is. Yeah, but
that'd be curious to know.
Yeah, that is huge. But the other thing we can do, and I think that's one of So remember the event I said I met Tim again. I have a couple of events like that a year as well, where we have different styles, different local teachers getting together and sharing at a picnic outside all day long with a barbecue and all that good stuff. Having another one in less than a month now. But I think that's cool because with the family bringing in, the kids see it, and even if they're not the ones, right, that's more exposure. So I think the one of the best ways you can do that is the best exposure.
No, I'm with you. Right? I just think it needs to be more of a concerted effort from all of us. I mean, like, if we don't want to see some of these arts die out, or some of these systems, I should say, not arts, I should say systems. I think it needs to be, a concerted effort from all of us orchestrated. But this is, hopefully we won't have to think about that. Because like you said, I mean, when our generation goes, like when I look at this whole MMA craze and BJJ craze, and nothing against it. I mean, it's great stuff I do. It's great stuff. That. But I'm seeing the millennials and younger more gravitating towards that. That's not even bringing up traditional martial arts. I'm just talking about kind of like the new fade, the new kind of hot ticket. So when I look at the three, MMA, BJJ, and then traditional systems, and then FMA, you know what I mean? It's just yeah. So it's tough. It's tough. Hence this channel and doing this. Getting people to.
Yeah. No, I think you're doing great stuff. But yeah, we're a minority. I think that was one of the brilliancies of the professor, right? Getting it into regular other schools.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Who else could get into all these entrenched schools? A lot of times they won't let anybody from another style in their building, but now they're going to bring in Remy to give them a little extra stuff. Wow.
I know, like we need a modern day Remy to get. And I guess who's doing it kind of. Who I had on here not too long ago, and I think he's really doing well. He does it within primarily the Taekwondo schools. Tuan Apollo.
Okay.
So he's
met his brother.
Yeah. It sounds like he's got a really, good solid kids program having him on, and he's starting to do it. So I think if we had a few more like him, I think we could be having a different conversation, hopefully, and or we won't even have to talk about this. But
I think your question is fair, right? For the FMA as a whole, I was obviously answering it from a modern point of view because that's my passion, right? But I think FMA in general would help if there's more people doing your art, it's still going to help me if my art.
100%, regardless of the art, right? Yeah, right. I mean, I totally agree with that. Right? It doesn't have to be whatever it is. I mean, exactly. It's only
especially if we can get together and share on these multi-style things. I mean, I have another saying for you. Sorry. What's the best martial art? The one that you do, right? Because maybe you want to do it for different reasons, or maybe you magically just enjoy, maybe throwing up 57 elbows, and that's what you want to do, and your art's based on it. But it fits you, and you will actually do it. Say maybe this other art is great for your putative goals, but you're not going to practice it because you don't like it. Then it's not a good art for you.
Right.
So we need to get more people to realize that, hey, FMA is fun, FMA is useful, FMA is amazing, and FMA is richer than people realize. Because I don't know how many people didn't realize that even Modern Arnis was a complete art, let alone the ones that are a little more obvious. Like name an art that's not that didn't have the same pedigree as Remy did, right? You're going to add it onto your style, so people thought that's all it was. No, but all the other arts, right? The standalone art, the Robio Arnis, Edie Tertia, right? People don't realize how rich all of those are.
Oh, no, 100%. They cover the full gamut, empty hand all the way up to flexible weapons. No, absolutely.
Even, something, Cinco Terra's, right? That as an art is still rich. Or, Serrato, oh, it's only this stuff. No, not quite.
Yeah. No. Wow. Well, this has been absolutely great. I really going on 2 hours. Hope we didn't keep you too long, but
oh, sorry. Yeah,
no. This has been absolutely fantastic. I appreciate you coming on. I'm glad we made it happen in the short amount of time that we did.
I'm a little ironic because I'm not a people person. I don't like people. But if you get me talking about something I care about, you can't shut me up, and I apologize.
No. This was fantastic. No, I mean, believe me, I had a bunch of questions, so it was me that got us to close to 2 hours. So it's my fault. Yes.
There you go. Well, hopefully it was entertaining. I had a blast.
No, I really enjoyed it. No. Like, and everybody who maybe didn't catch the beginning, I really wanted to get you on. I just thought you were so incredibly friendly at the camp there, and you actually made time to talk, and I didn't feel like an oar, so I really appreciated that because I was an outsider. Like, you know what I mean? And it is what it is. And you definitely, you and Chris. And so, I appreciated that. I thought that was very nice of you. And so, well, hopefully this will, hopefully we'll get to see each other again and all that. Certainly it would be nice to meet up again and, whatever,
Yeah, no, it'd be good to maybe break bread, hang out. I know 2 things. One, I think you're coming to maybe a WMA camp, I think, at some point.
I'm going, Datu Tim is doing the thing up there.
Right. And also, we're going to be in Connecticut doing a seminar at a local school in Connecticut as well.
Oh, whose school?
At Frank's school.
Oh, I'll definitely swing by. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, yeah. When's that?
February or March.
About when?
February or March, something like that.
So, next March, you're saying? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, March. Yeah. No, I would definitely. Oh my gosh, you guys are coming to Connecticut. That's sold. Yeah. I'll get you all 3. Matter of fact, I'll get you all 3 on the interview.
There you go. But no, and everybody's welcome, because you said something about an outsider, and to me, FMA is so small, none of us should be an outsider visiting anybody else.
You're not getting argument from me on that. Yeah. Yeah.
That's one of the things I was amazed at. I showed up at PDK camp only because, Chad said to, and Jack said okay, and all that stuff worked out, and we're treated like family. And then Bobby's camp, we're made to feel like family. And we go work with Coach Narzo, like I said, and we're family. That's how it should be, because we're such a small piece of.
I know. We can't afford to be fighting with each other, man. Are you kidding me?
And plus, how am I going to know how to steal what you do or break what you do without stealing?
Right, because you are greedy and you need to steal. So we can't have you out. We can't have you on the outside.
But it's also it's not stealing if they give it to you too. So.
All right. So it looks like Dr. Tim's thing's in March. It looks like you guys February, as far as you going to Connecticut.
February's Connecticut. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I'll definitely. Oh yeah. I'll definitely.
I'll be in Texas. January and February border. I'll be in 3 weekends in Texas because I'm doing some stuff out there for martial arts, not for work.
No, awesome. All right. Well, hey, Ty, thank you so much for coming on. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
That was a pleasure. Thanks for having me, and thanks for egging me on.
Yeah. No problem with it. All right, brother. Well, you take care of yourself, okay?
All right, you too. And we'll see you soon, I hope.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, take care.
Take care.
All right, that wraps up episode 221. Tomorrow, 222, Guru Tom is interviewing female guests from Australia, and a name temporarily is escaping me. I apologize for that. But Dose Paris, I believe. They did the test run today. Sounds like it would be a good show. And what else of significance? Wednesday, Jerry Jacobs, C-Lot, Bikini Tertia is coming on. And Friday, husband, wife, David Hatch. And Linda, I believe her name is. Hopefully I'm not mistaken on that. But if you haven't already, please hit subscribe to FMA Discussion on YouTube, where all the monies received go to charity. And also, we have a raffle coming up. Some great stuff are being donated from folks. And that's going to be held December 12th. We're going to basically pull names. It's $5 a ticket, $5. And you'll be helping children. All the money we're taking from that raffle is going over to the Philippines. We got a couple charities picked out, all that deal with children. So you will actually be helping children, during this holiday season. So if you can, that's an FMA Discussion, a raffle. You can't miss it. It's pinned, and I've been putting some information there. We had some more recent donations from people donating a raffle, and so we had a bunch of people today buy tickets. So if you're part of the group there, check it out. Again, $5. Okay. All right, folks. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you Wednesday. But if you want to check our show out tomorrow, Guru Tom tomorrow. The time escapes me, but I think it's an FMA Discussion as far as the time he's going to be going on. All right, all. Take care, and thank you for those who jumped in, commented, and all that. Oh, GM Bobby, anytime. Thank you for jumping in and staying. All right. Always good to have GM Bobby. All right, folks. Take care.